So today I'm going to change the distributor cap because the old one is not in very good condition. The contacts are calcified and I cracked my original cap. This is one from half cut. So before starting anything is to pay attention on the orientation of the distributor cap. As you can see here, there's a Nippon Denso symbol over here. I painted it white so that it's easier to see. So pay attention which side this is facing in relation to the first screw. You can see that it's towards the right side on the first screw, and the Nippon Denso need to face on top. Alright, all these wires have its own marking, number 1 until number 6, and the center one. So what I'm going to do now is remove all these wires. Okay, just put it on the side for a while and take the new cap and mark them. First thing you need to do is with the new distributor cap, this is brand new. Alright, you can see the contacts here are beautiful, unused, all 6 of them. Alright, so first thing to do is take a white marker pen and mark the numbers which is given, because you cannot see these numbers once you put it on the engine. On the distributor you cannot see the numbers, so you pre-mark them so it's easy to see outside. Alright, and this is the Nippon Denso symbol. I marked them too, so we know that this need to face upwards and this one need to go in the first screw on top, so it won't be wrong. And don't forget to change the new O-ring. So now I'm going to proceed to remove the distributor cap, the old one. I use this long screwdriver just to push the edge here a little bit. Just push a few places, and while you pull, and once it feels a bit loose, then you don't need to use screwdriver anymore, just pull out with hand. So I'm going to proceed to remove all these wires. Okay, I've pulled out the wires, and I've also removed the cable holder just to make it easier to access. So now I'm going to proceed to loosen this and the screw underneath here. It's a bit difficult to reach, but it's possible with some maneuvering. So now I'm going to loosen it. Okay, to remove the old O-ring, you probably need to break it because the O-ring has become brittle. So as you try to pry over here, it'll break, and then you just pull off the O-ring like this. Right? I'm not sure you can see it in this video, but the old O-ring has flattened out. It's not round anymore. It's flat. So I'm going to change the new one. Next, I'm going to clean up the groove, O-ring groove inside here. I'm going to use some wet tissue and a screwdriver to run through the groove and clean it up. Okay, the new O-ring is in, and I've put a very small amount of super loop grease on the O-ring. Small amount will do, just to protect it, to keep it soft and lasting longer. So now the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to sand the contacts over here very lightly with 1500 grit sandpaper. The contacts are here, one here, and the one in the center over here. Alright, just sand them lightly and then wipe them clean, and then you can put on the distributor cap. Do not sand too much, just a little, just to make it a bit shiny, that's all. Sure whether you can see, but I've sanded the points 1, 2 and the third one in the center to best of my ability. So after sanding, you need to wipe them clean, so you don't want any of the brass copper dust going inside the distributor and causing short circuit. Okay, so wipe it all off, and then I'm going to put a really tiny amount of super loop grease on these contacts. We're talking about tiny amount that it won't fling around, just a coat. Alright, and it's hardly it won't spill everywhere. This is a bit of a controversial method, but I want to keep these contacts lasting a bit longer. So I think that if you just put a tiny amount, just coating it, and you hardly notice it, then I think it's okay. Okay, I've put the tiny amount of super loop grease on all 3 contacts, but I put just a little more on the center because the center is the one that I'm gonna be operating most of the time, and that's where you receive the high voltage from the ignition coil, and this is the main power source where it's going into this center one. So just put a little bit more there, but still very little, and it's isolated from the rest of the chambers, so it should be okay. Just to slow down oxidation and make the contacts last longer. Okay, so as you can see that you can hardly notice the grease over here, right? So this is okay. I'm gonna put back the let it dry, and then put back the cap. I've wiped the rotor where there's not supposed to be any grease. I wiped all that clean, and let's let it dry, and I'll put it back in half an hour. Okay, this is the inside of the old distributor cap. Before this, actually I cleaned this up before. Before this there was a lot of calcified contacts. I've cleaned it up with a sandpaper and a file, and as you can see it's not that bad now. But yeah, there's some calcification here, you can see that. Right, so this is the new cap, and it's pristine, it's clean. So there'll be no calcification over here because this one is making direct contact. There's a spring-loaded kind of carbon contact over here. So what I'm going to do is going to put a very small amount of super loop grease here. I'm talking super thin layer, okay, just to protect these contacts. You cannot have too much or it will fling everywhere and cause a short circuit. Right, so again, this is controversial. Some people said shouldn't put anything at all, but I think it should protect this surface, so I'm going to put a tiny amount. I'm going to use the small screwdriver to dab it on. Okay, I've done adding just a tiny amount of super loop grease, and I dab it on with the screwdriver, and I make sure that when I apply it evenly and very thinly. So you can see here, you can hardly spot the grease, and you need to also smear a little bit just over the plastic, not just the contact points, for a little extra protection to reduce arcing. And with this little amount of grease that is hardly noticeable, it won't fling everywhere, it will stay where it is, right? And we also don't want the grease to be flung about by the rotor, because there's no actual contact, so they won't be flung around. So now I can put back the cap. Okay, let's have a look at it again with brighter sunlight, and you can see much better how's the grease on the contacts. There's no grease elsewhere, just on this contacts and at the nearby vicinity of the plastic housing. So this should be enough just to protect it from oxidation, premature oxidation and calcification. Right, so it won't fling around. I'm going to put the cap on now. Remember, the Nippon Denso symbol is facing on top, and this is the first screw. Right, number 5 will be somewhere here. I want to mention that I've cut up a 8mm spanner. Alright, actually I cut up this 8mm spanner for the condenser, the alternator condenser over here. There's an 8mm nut over here which I cannot reach with a long spanner, so I cut up so that I can remove this. I'm waiting for this to come. I'm going to replace this because this is leaking. Replace a new one to reduce arcing in the carbon brush, so I can loosen this nut over here easily without touching anything, alright, around the surrounding. And as an added bonus, this works for the distributor as well, especially the tight space below, which is very hard to reach. Alright, so this works very well, and don't over tighten. So yeah, use a cut spanner like this and it helps a lot for tightening the bottom bolt. Right, I've tightened the 2 bolts, top and bottom, and there's no need to be very tight on this because we don't want to crack the cap. And with this short spanner, you won't have that much torque, so just hand tight by feel. If it feels tight enough, just stop and you're fine. Right, see clearly the marking over here, so just match the cables. You don't have to push the cable in completely. For now, just push it in and then finally push them all in together. So now connect them correctly in the sequence, like this number 5 needs to go to this number 5 over here. Alright, so now let's start. Okay, it's done. I've pushed in all the cables snugly. It should snap in, and the gap should be somewhere here like this. So this is all snug and nice, and I put back the cable holder. There's a logical placement to this where the wire will looks like it's going through its easiest route, so just follow that and you should be okay. Alright, Don't let the wire kink a lot. This is all fine. So now the job is considered done. Alright, over and out.